Ramadan is not about starving yourself, being sleep deprived, and hating your life. It's about a thing called taqwa, which translated to English is basically God conscious, which basically means that you're conscious that there's a creator over you, always watching every single move that you're doing in this life. Because quite literally, there is. Ramadan is the holiest month for Muslims, and I don't want any of you guys to miss out on the chance to actually going to heaven, which is why this video is a full breakdown on how you can make the most out of Ramadan.
رجوتك عفوا ولا لي سوى ودمع يسيل على.
Now, deen is sort of a problem for most of us. I just recommend praying the 5 prayers, and you don't need to pray sunnats. You can go into that later on once you're really comfortable with praying the regular 5, and just try to pray each one on time. Taraweeh is honestly, it's one of the most tiring but also rewarding things that I feel like I've done towards my deen. I personally recommend you guys pray at least 20 rakahs in the mosque at least once. Especially if you're a guy, you should be going to the mosque at least once a day during Ramadan. I'll be honest, the first time I prayed 20 rakahs in the mosque for Taraweeh, I teared up a little because it was really difficult for me, but I was also happy I did it. I'd never had like a moment of regret after praying the 20 rakahs. Yes, I have many moments of like, oh, should I just go home after like a certain like rakat? But every single time that I've finished the 20 rakahs in the mosque, I have never regretted it. It's honestly, it's rewarding. And as I said before, I legit got teary after the first time I prayed, because I was happy that I was able to pray so much and not give up, and also it was just sort of a calming experience. Now for charity, I recommend just doing it from the kindness of your heart. I'm not going to rant about how you should give and how giving is good, because I feel like most people already know that. Let's say if you live in Bangladesh and you have like a 500 taka note, you can convert that into a bunch of 10s or a bunch of 20s, and you can just go give that to people. Now 500 to you, for most people watching this video, it's kind of an insignificant amount. Like, yes, you can get like a decent meal out of it, but trust me, seeing the joy in people's faces afterwards you give charity is one of the most, it's honestly, it lights up my day. But like any small amount of money you have, or you have a large amount of money, donate it. Trust me, donate it to people on the street especially. Also, there's this whole thing in Bangladesh, there's probably some in like US or something as well, about poor people being part of like a business. Now look, a person might be, okay, they might be lying to you and have like a pathetic scheme to get some money off you. And let's say you do give them the money and they use it for their scheme. But then there's also a side that maybe they don't have a scheme. Maybe they actually need the money, and then you don't give them. So then if you think it in that way, you're kind of in a lose-lose situation. But personally for me, my philosophy is just give money to whoever and whenever you can. Now we're gonna get on to the topic of reading Quran. Now personally, there isn't much to say about this other than if you don't read Quran at all right now, just try to read 1 page and then slowly increase. Let's say the first 3 days you read 1 page, the next 3 days you read 2 pages, and then slowly increase it onwards. For the people who already read Quran and they know how to read Quran and all of this, try reading anywhere from like 3 to 5 pages a day. I know that it might sound like a lot, but especially if you read it through, let's say, an app, it'll max take you like 5 pages will max take you like maybe 20 minutes. For the people who don't want to read the Quran in Arabic, I just recommend reading some translations, reading some hadiths. Just read anything, okay? If before you didn't read anything, read something. If before you read something, read a little bit more of that something. Just read parts of the Quran that you find interesting. Also, random thing, there's people looking at me from another building. Now look, studying is something that most people in this planet do, and they sort of overcomplicate the process. But personally, one little key thing that you should just keep in mind is just study less. Rules that you need to know for studying is Feynman technique, active recall, Anki, Parkinson's law, and there's like a lot. Find efficient ways to study the same amount of content. For example, I feel like you studying more than 2 hours per day is a waste of time. Yeah, I said it. 3 times that I would say in the day that you should study is firstly before Fajr, and then secondly after Fajr, and thirdly after Tarawih. But if you pray 20 rakats in the mosque, let's be honest, you get home by like 11 and you probably won't want to study anymore. For that case, just study after iftar. I'll be honest with you, my phone is like shutting down because this you can't feel heat obviously in the video, but my phone can while filming this, and it told me my phone needs to cool down. Imagine how I'm feeling. By the way, I look amazing right now with this lighting. It's legit shutting down.
Alright, so one problem I have in Ramadan is that I'm not going to the gym regularly. I used to go to the gym pretty consistently, but during Ramadan, I feel tired during the day, and after iftar, well, I'm pretty much cooked. I'm gonna go sleep right after iftar. So that's my problem. And Safwan, I would like you to help me with my fitness goals during Ramadan, since you're more than qualified.
You can go to the gym at basically 3 times, which I would say you have some sort of energy. Firstly, you can go to the gym right after having your sahur, but it is late at night and also your gym might not be open. Secondly, you could go before school. So let's say your school starts at about 8. You could go to the gym at about 7, get like a 30-minute workout in. Or if you do 2-hour workout sessions, that obviously doesn't work. You could go to the gym around 2 hours or so before iftar, where your energy levels might be less, but if you're not going to the gym at all, going to the gym at that point would make some sort of impact. And if you're tired after iftar, you can go right after Tarawih. If you go pray in the mosque, you can go after the mosque. If you pray at home, afterwards you finish your Tarawih by like, let's say 9 p.m. You can go to the gym, get like a workout in for an hour, maybe 2 hours. Now, overall, you will have to sacrifice one of 2 things, which is 1, the safety of going to the gym at day, or 2, your sleep. But personally, the full advice with going to the gym during Ramadan, I personally don't recommend it. Not because of energy levels or some BS. I personally believe that you should spend most of your time rebuilding that connection with God. Even if it's already built, you can never have a strong enough connection with God. It can always be better. The main 3 bad habits that I feel like people can't stop because they have such a big habit of, especially in Bangladesh. Not pointing fingers, by the way. You do you. I'm not the one who's gonna pay to God, which is lying, backbiting, and gossip. Now, I say these from the bottom of my heart. Stop doing these, especially when you're fasting. If you want to do this after fasting, it's not that bad. But when you're fasting, please don't. It sort of reduces the whole impact on fasting. When you're fasting, you're meant to stay away from these bad habits. And if you still do them, I'm not gonna say your fast is gonna be broken, because I'm sure it won't. But like the rewards you're gonna get from that fast would be definitely decreased because of the bad habit. Right now, if you're still doing these bad habits, you just need to come in terms and realize that God is always watching. And if you visualize that above you is God and He's always watching every single action of yours, and if you visualize that, 80% of people, they will stop doing the bad habit. Because the same way with how you wouldn't smoke weed in front of your parents, you wouldn't be doing bad habits or be doing anything haram if you knew that God was above and looking at you right now. But the thing is, most people in this generation, they don't think that far through. Even though it's not even thinking that far through, it's very literal, by the way. I literally want you to visualize that God is watching you from above and seeing every single one of your actions that you're doing. Because quite literally, He is. But so many of us forget, and which sort of makes us into the trap of doing all these bad habits in the first place. Because as I said before, if your parents were watching you 24/7, chances are you wouldn't be doing your bad habits. The same way how God is watching you 24/7, you shouldn't be doing the bad habits in the first place. But if this visualization, for the 20% of people that it won't solve the problems of, it will build guilt. Which is why I feel like it's one of the best things about being Muslim, is that a lot of people who are atheists or other religions, they will say, I don't want to convert to Islam. Reason because I know I won't be able to follow all their guidelines or follow all of the things that they do because I live such a sinful life. Now this is the thing. We all live sinful lives. None of us is perfect. All of us sin to a degree. I think I read this in the Quran or Hadith a couple weeks ago or something, of like why Allah gives us problems and makes us go through hardship and gives us some highs and then gives us some lows. And basically why Allah doesn't make us perfect is because if you were perfect, you wouldn't need me. Which is why I made you imperfect, so you need me. Because let's be honest, if our lives were perfect, why would we follow an upper creator? Why would we believe in the concept that there's someone in control of everything that's going on in this world other than ourselves? If our lives were perfect, we wouldn't, right? Because think of this. I really want you to think of this. Why would we need a God when our life is perfect? When our life is imperfect, that's when everybody goes storms to God. Now remember this line. If you remember God when times are good, God will remember you when times are bad. Because almost every single person in this world, whether they're religious or non-religious, when there's problems in their life, they're gonna pray to a God. But yeah, this whole little ramble session, it went from a conversation about realizing that God is always watching. Because quite literally he is. And I know it's hard for like so many of us to just legit have that vivid image in our head that God is watching, or have that sentence in our head, oh, God is watching, stop doing the haram thing that you're doing. But I feel like it's a line or visual image that all of us should have in our heads. For the people who don't follow this visual image and stop, they will have a particular guilt in their heart or their brain, one of the two. And eventually they're gonna build that guilt up from ignoring the signs of God again and again and again. Full video on this later, and this is sort of a rambling session, but is God gives us a lot of small mistakes to indicate to us to stop doing something haram. And when those small mistakes pile up and we still don't see it, God gives us a huge mistake to make us realize, do you really want to continue doing this? Now for the people who have perfect lives doing haram stuff, trust me, your time is coming. I say this in the nicest way possible. You should stop before the huge problem comes. Because I fell into that trap once. I fell into the trap of ignoring every single sign that God gave me. Now, because God gave me so many small signs, and I decided to ignore every single one of them until like God gave me a huge sign that I should stop. And then I ignored that again. He understood the fact that I wasn't falling that easily. So he kept giving me huge mistake after huge mistake after huge mistake. And all these signs, they seem to clutter up in the back of my head and build a level of guilt in my heart. Because at the end, I stopped doing that particular thing that God kept giving me so many signs for. Next up, we're going to talk about music specifically, because I know for a fact people struggle with music a huge ton. Legit, I was talking to one of my friends the other day. He was like, Ramadan's fairly easy, but like listening to music, man, it's really hard for me. Because almost everywhere we go, there's music. And music is a normalized culture, so honestly, at this point, I can't really blame anyone. Now, simply said, don't listen to music while you're fasting. You can do it after fasting. Like, look, like the Ramadan's meant to be a lifestyle change, okay? Eventually, when you stop listening to music while you're fasting, after fasting, most of the time, you're not even going to get the urge to listen to music because it sort of becomes into a habit. Now, it's arguable on whether or not music is haram or not, because a lot of people argue that it's not haram and you can do it as long as the lyrics are clean, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, there's so much argument around it. Why would you put yourself in the risk zone anyways? You know, if there's a lot of argument on whether or not something is halal or haram, just stop doing it. Because you're safe either way then. And honestly, how you can replace music is many ways. You can listen to Quran, podcasts, just watch regular YouTube videos, or listen to nasheeds. By the way, nasheeds also have a level of sort of barrier, because there's a requirement on nasheeds. For example, it always needs to be like sort of a guy singing it. There can't be any like instruments playing while the guy sings, and overall there's a law as well. But yeah, just keep in mind, no proper instruments and no girls singing. If you follow those two principles, I feel like more than like 80% of the nasheeds which are haram will be cut off for you. And for the ones that disguise themselves as nasheeds but actually aren't, can't really do much. But also you can just sit in silence. And with that, that's the end of the video. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. This took me a little bit to make. My phone heated up a couple times. The sunlight is beautiful. And I'm sorry for rambling for so long, but I feel like this was a video that I wanted to make. Even if not a lot of people watch it, I hope even if one person watches this, they get value from this. And let me know if you guys want more value-driven content. And with all that said, go and live life, and I'll see you next week.